Hi everyone, I'm Darren Hunter and with Deniz Youssef. We are from Inspired Growth Training. This is the PM Growth Experts podcast show, and this is our video interview version, but we also have an audio streaming version on iTunes podcast and also for our Android users out there on Podbean as well, so you can listen in the car between appointments. Now today we've got two very special people. We first met Christopher Barrow and Darcy Alkus at the Geared for Growth one-day Nevada event that we did last September, I reckon that was. And well, what happened then is we were booked in Nevada at Lake Tahoe at the Hard Rock Hotel.
Yep. So the organisation booked us in.
Booked us in at the hotel. We were assuming that our one-day event was at the actual hotel. We didn't realise it was 30 minutes drive away. And we were waiting out the front and like, what do we do next? Let's start calling an Uber. And these two lovely people came out and said, you look like the Australian property management trainers. Would you like a lift? So thank you very much, guys, for helping us out. And it was a lovely drive there, and you got us back. So just yeah. But look, very quickly, a quick plug for Inspection Manager, the most popular, the most well-used inspection app, certainly in Australia and New Zealand. Check it out. Now, as a property owner myself, when I get my routine inspections, it's very important that when I open it, I can quickly see what's going on. I can see all the maintenance that needs to be done. And I found that the Inspection Manager report is one of the easiest reports for me to quickly see what I need to know and then move on. So go to inspectionmanager.com. Now, getting back to Darcy and Christopher, they are from San Francisco in California. You guys are in the Bay Area itself. And so just very quickly, they're from Foundation Homes International. They've got 130 doors, but their average income per door per year is around about $6,000. So that's around about 2 to 3 times the average portfolio income per year per door. So we're dealing with a lot of high rents. The highest rent you guys are dealing with is $25,000 a month, but your average rent is $6,500 a month, and because you're in the Bay Area, you're dealing with multi-million-dollar properties, anywhere from $1.5 to $3 million each. So I think today's interview, Deniz, is going to be very much about high-end, dealing with high-end landlords and tenants.
If I thought I had fussy owners, I tell you, you guys must have fussy owners and fussy tenants as well, right?
Absolutely.
You know, it's just a different
animal.
Different animal, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Darren, I've just brought up, we got memed. This is the photo of the 4 of us that they created.
Yes. So it's a picture of us all together, and then it's got when BDM meets transportation. So thank you again. We were a bit stunned, like, what do we do? And not realizing it was a whole 30 minutes drive away. So
on the phone. What door? I was on the phone with them. What door do we walk through? The glass one. And I'm looking around. There's no glass doors here. Where are you? And they said, we're at the event center. I said, so are we. And then they said, have you left the hotel yet? And I went, no.
You know, it was our honor to move our car seat for you and take you.
We got a lot of valuable insight from you guys. We're able to just corner you and just pepper you with questions. So it was great.
It was actually the master plan.
It was almost worth the gas spent to get you to and from.
Yeah.
Great.
But you didn't care that we're running late, right? Because of that traffic on the way with all the roadworks. It was, you know.
We drew it up that way.
That was great. Yeah, excellent. So just to start things on the road, should we say, while we're talking about roads, what led you to the road of real estate?
Well, initially, my grandfather was a big real estate guy. I never met him, but he was a real big real estate guy in San Francisco. So you could say a little bit of it's in my blood. I think because we were both from the restaurant industry, we sort of were naturally inclined to the customer service way of doing business inside of real estate. Darcy initially got it started, and I followed quickly after, watching her walk into an appointment, sign up a client, sign a lease and make $3,000 in 45 minutes. And I was totally sold on that. I was like, so I quit my job 2 weeks later. And initially I thought the money, like the fast money of real estate was really exciting, was really sexy. But now that I've been in business, and I think Darcy will probably agree to, now that we've been in business specifically inside of property management and leasing, we've realized there's so many different opportunities, so many different directions we can go and really utilize our innovative creative side and really blow out an actual industry. So that's the exciting part for me about real estate.
Yeah, so when we got started, we'll set the scene for you. It was 2005. In California, real estate was on fire. All you had to do was have a breath and you could get a loan for $1 million. So real estate agents were just selling like this. And when I got this job working as a leasing agent, people thought I was crazy. They're like, why would you do rentals? And it just sort of worked. I didn't even think it was a real job at first, but it was apparently. And yeah, so I did it about 6 months, and then Christopher got in. And then for your Australian listeners, they may not know, in about 2007, 2008, massive real estate crash in the United States. And so then it turned out to be a very good thing we were in rentals, because we were able to swap our business model and change our approach, and it all ended up working out.
Yeah, we got super dynamic, and actually that was when that happened, it sort of started building the foundation part of the fund, but build the foundation for us to actually go off on our own, because we realized how independent we actually were. And Darcy is a very innovative, creative person, and she spearheaded what was called MarinLeasingTeam.com, which was our own website that became the solution to funnel all the available rental inventory in Marin County to one spot. And so in order for us to really stay alive and eat, so to speak, during that time, was to make sure that if any transaction was going to happen, we were going to be part of that transaction. So we would feel at that time we were really tenant-centric, and we were just trying to fill as many tenant leases as we could and show them as many properties to make sure that we could get those transactions done.
Yeah, so to be clear, we were leasing agents at the time for another broker,
Okay.
not property.
There's certainly a buzz around that you enjoyed. You can hear it in your voice that you love being a leasing agent. You know, it was that, Darcy, if I can ask you, was that because, you loved helping people, securing them into a home, the chase for that style, or what was it that you enjoyed about the leasing? I mean, you didn't even think it was a job, but you loved it and you stuck to it.
Yeah, it was just a lot of fun at first. I mean, the market and the industry is so different now than it was, 15 years ago when we first started. But it's sort of the thrill of the hunt, the hunt for the deal. I think Christopher said that's also what he likes about it. But I've always loved getting people in my car and touring them around. And in Marin County, where we work, we have a lot of different pockets and little towns. So people would come and not really understand what they want. They would think they knew what they wanted, but I was able to listen to what they want and go show them things they didn't know they wanted. And I loved that. I'm actually not even an agent anymore. I let my license expire intentionally, so I'm forced to work on the business now. So it's been a long time since I've been an agent and showed properties. But I definitely loved doing it when I was an agent.
Yeah, so let's just clarify for the Australian listeners. Obviously here in Australia, you have to have certification to work in an office, but obviously in the United States, you don't have to. It's, different legislation, to pick up a phone and talk to a client in Australia, you've got to have, a qualification.
So you do in California, but I don't do any of that. I do entirely, I run a team, I do our back office. I don't have, except for maybe intercepting some emails and routing them, I really don't.
Yeah. Okay.
Darcy's more operations now, but when we were leasing, we all had to be licensed.
Yeah.
That's California.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, to me, leasing is similar to chasing new business, because it's the answer the phone. You've got to book the appointment, and then you've got to convince them why they've got to lease your property over a rival. New business, you're answering the phone. You convince them go to the property, and you're convincing them to use your services versus someone else's. So that the steps are very similar. And sales, when selling the property, it's the same. So the three go, they go in tandem together. So it's really cool. So tell us a little bit about your area. So you just gave us a little bit of insight that you've got your different counties and stuff. So, obviously you're dealing with some high-end properties as well. What about the structure of the office?
So in our office, we manage portfolio style.
Yep.
So we've gone both ways. We were originally portfolio, then we went to departmental, and then we went back to portfolio. And it's hard because we go to NARPM and we talk to a lot of people, and people hear our staff to door ratio and they just think we're insane. They said, that is crazy. You're crazy overstaffed. And it took us a few years of hearing that and being like, but why isn't this making sense? Why is our portfolio not like anyone else's? Until we finally realized we're not like anybody else's, and we just need to do what's right for us. And what's right for us is a very high staff to door ratio. So I think you said in the beginning, we manage a little bit over 130 doors right now, but we have 2 property managers. We've just hired an assistant property manager. We obviously have a bookkeeping team. We have Christopher, who's mostly our BDM and our broker. We have me running the office. And then who am I forgetting? We've got Rebecca, who's our office manager. And then we've got leasing agents, 1099 leasing agents.
And what we realized is that one of the biggest ways or easiest ways to remain successful is to be consistent. And that starts with the property manager really being in touch with the property owner, facilitating the transaction, talking to the owner through the entire process, being in touch with the tenant, and then closing that transaction. We've realized that is just a really successful formula. We just keep the cooks to 1 in the kitchen at all times, and the food turns out really well.
So one of the biggest differences in high end is that we can have, like, you could be dealing with an audio-visual system at a property that's built into your like 4,000 square foot house, right? So that property manager maybe knows who to call to get, or he knows the terms that were negotiated. If you're doing departmental style, what are the chances that your assistant, who's 2 times removed from that property, is going to know the individual things that come up? So it ends up with your tenants getting frustrated, they can't get the answer, and the owners get frustrated when someone doesn't like snap, know the answer.
It's just really easy for the ball to get dropped.
Yeah.
And, if you know the guy is carrying the torch the whole way through, it's likely going to reach the end.
Okay. So quick question then: what distance are you covering? So from your obviously the central office, because I know Darren is like 30 minutes, 20 minutes. What do you normally say?
I can say no more than 30 minutes drive from the office. Otherwise, too many of those sort of properties, you end up spending too much time sitting on the seat in the car and working part-time on the portfolio and then part-time driving. So but we're not dealing with a traditional rent roll here, Deniz. We're dealing with a business. So we've got 2 property managers for 130 properties. Is that right? So we're looking at that 65 properties each, and high touch time, lots things are definitely done differently. So what sort of spread are your properties? What sort of distances is drive time?
I would say probably the furthest out is in San Francisco. It's about 45 minutes, and that's just with traffic. It's not so much the distance; it's just getting across and getting through town. But pretty much, we're probably no more than a half an hour at the most for most all of our other properties, and that would include traffic and just getting across town.
Sure. Okay, that's cool. So if you were to meet yourself the first day that you started, so if you go back, I know that you were just talking about it then, Darcy, but I didn't get yours, Chris, but if you were to meet yourself on the first day, what advice would you give yourself?
The advice I would give myself is really to align myself with an industry leading mentor or a coach or a partner. Try to stay innovative. You have to always make sure you do the work, and details matter. And then I would also say read The One Thing by Michael Keller. I just read that book, and it had so many great insights about someone just starting out in any industry. It was phenomenal. And specific to being a salesperson, Jeremy Pound is becoming really relative in property management, BDM. And I've listened to a couple of his interviews and just downloaded his book, The 7 Secrets to a Successful Sales Team. It's phenomenal. So those are the advice. That's the advice I'd give to somebody day one.
I'm going to write that one down. Seven secrets.
7 Secrets to a Successful Sales Team.
I'll screenshot it, Darren. Michael Sands, it's one of the books that he told me I should be listening to.
Okay, that's good.
You can read it. You can listen to it in like 10 minutes. It's a quick read.
Okay, that's good. Good to know. Thank you for that.
But I think if we divide it into 2 different segments, right? So the first part of our career, we were leasing agents working for someone else. So that's maybe more type of advice we'd give a BDM. It's a different set of advice that we would give us as brand new business owners in 2010 when we had first opened our business, right? So like the advice for like a BDM or someone looking to really aggressively grow is, hustle up and do the work, because we've what we've really found in the real estate industry, whether you're selling or leasing, whether it's agents we've trained or agents who we just see out in the community, the biggest block to people's success is that they don't consistently do the work. People start out, they've got the best intentions, but they don't do it every day and they don't do it systematically. And we've always done that almost from the very beginning. Is when I was a leasing agent, would love getting up and prospecting in the morning and seeing what new listings are out there and who could I stalk and go get in touch with. I don't really see people doing that so much today. And we see real estate agents in the selling world where they start and then they get busy and they're really busy servicing their listings, but they're not keeping that pipeline full. So the number one piece of advice to someone starting there trying to build a book is to set that schedule and do that religiously, daily, at least Monday through Friday.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter how busy you are doing that prospecting. Doesn't matter how busy you are. Keep that pipeline full.
So Tony Robbins has a great analogy. He says, what do you do when it's cold? You turn up the thermostat so you get warm. The problem is when people get warm, they turn the thermostat down. So you got to keep keep hot and keep on it at all times in order to maintain that success.
Yeah, certainly do. So it's interesting because, my next question, it's coming to, and you've kind of answered it, so it's a good segue in. If you're starting your rent roll from scratch, what would 3-4 key strategies be in starting from scratch to get that rent roll going? So I'm guessing you're going to talk about that hustle, right? That's what you were just talking about.
So we're touching on it. We're touching on the way in. What did we do when we were first starting? Because it's different. How we get business now is different from how we did in the beginning. But in the beginning.
Yep. Sorry, you go.
In the beginning, we would contact owners for sale, for rent by owner. And if we couldn't reach contact with them, I would send them a letter. And it was always like a printed, we'd have a little flyer made up. I would always do a handwritten post-it and we'd stick in our business card. It would say something relevant about their street. Oh, you're on Riviera Circle. I love that street. Call me if you need help with your rental. Tuck in our business card, always hand addressed on the front. And the key to that was being on top of it. You did it as soon as that listing came out. So you were getting to them before other people did. And we did the same thing with the expireds on the MLS. So homes that didn't sell, I would look at that daily, which homes expired today, and I would do that same process. Have you considered renting? Give me a call. Happy to give you an estimate. And the hand addressed part, there weren't that many, 5 to 10 a day. But doing that consistently, I absolutely got business that way.
It's funny. We'd get phone calls maybe a year later from an owner who we prospected that way, sent them a flyer, and they, you know what, I rented my house last year on my own. It was okay. I really found it was a lot of work. I like to have someone else do it. I got your flyer. Would you mind coming over and taking a look? That's happened so many times. We've had a lot of repeat business as a result from those initial flyers.
Yeah, so that was one method. Networking with your real estate agents. What we've found is you really need to target the top and most successful real estate agents, because the agents who are only doing a little bit of business, they're the ones who kind of get worried that you're going to steal their client, and they don't really have as much going on, so they're more likely to try to handle their rental themselves. But when you go to a very successful realtor, all they want is for you to take really good care of their client. So you need about maybe 10 to 12 realtors who are really solid relationship, where you will move mountains, you will drop whatever you're doing to take care of that realtor's needs, and that will really help you grow your business. We get so many referrals from basically our sort of core group of realtors that we
Do you have any realtors that you refer to that refer business to you that actually have a portfolio in the company that they're working in, that they've actually chosen to give it to you?
Not a portfolio. You're talking about a portfolio of rental properties?
Yeah, like that they're working with a company and they could actually refer it to their own company, but instead,
absolutely,
because they want their client looked after and they don't trust their own people in the company to look after their client. They trust you more. Do you have that?
Yeah,
we've had owners of companies.
We've had the owners of a very large, successful company
more than
rent
one
from us and refer us a ton of business outside of their company.
Yeah. And they're awesome.
We'll keep them nameless.
Yeah.
But
it's happened several
times
for sure.
Yep, for sure.
And it'll always happen. It happens in every country. So it's interesting. So, okay, so you're talking about calling the expired listings. So in Australia and New Zealand, we call them the stale listings, the properties that haven't sold. They've been on the market for a long time. And then you'll approach them to see if they want to rent the property out. And you're talking about the private owners. You're contacting them straight away and offering to help. So that's really cool. So quick question. Have you got that strategy in place now that you're an established company?
We do. We tried to. We have our team work the new guys that come on. We work to work the leads a similar way. I'd say stalking the expired listings and going on to Craigslist, or I don't know what your version of Craigslist is in your area, but in Craigslist, and looking at the self-managing owners and just trying to offer them something. We used to even call those people back in the day, like, hey, look, I know that you're doing this on your own, but if we brought you a tenant, would you pay a fee? We would negotiate a fee on the front end. And oftentimes they say, yeah. And then we would be like, okay, we're showing a property to these people, and we'd rent it to them because we knew.
Yeah. And then they would just call us right away.
They became our clients.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So then you'd get them to secure them as a full-time management. So you weren't offering a let only or release only. You were just going straight for the kill. If we find the tenant, can we also manage it?
No, this was just for lease only to get that client, someone who was previously a self-managing, get them into the family per se, do the leasing for them. And some of them, actually Christopher's #1 client recently just converted, 15 years later, just converted all her buildings to our management.
14 years later. I called her out of the newspaper.
Back in the day,
2005. And she's like, come on over. And she had a 4-plex and 2 4-plexes and another couple condos, and then she just converted 14 years later all of her units.
That's definitely one thing that we've learned over the years, is that there's no such thing as a bad contact or like a waste of time going to see a property, because you never know. We get a lot of referrals that maybe that owner doesn't work with us, but we get a once removed referral where they've never even worked with us, but they refer us to their neighbor or their friend, or then they end up calling us 2 or 3 years later. So we also do relocations where the tenant hires us and actually pays us to tour them around and teach them about the areas. And I used to love doing relocations because every time I did one, I always got a new client, a new door to take in, because just from someone who I met from being out in the field, showing the properties and showing them that we were active, we were experts, we were knowledgeable, that they would call us a week later and be like, please just list my property.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. And I love that persistence and the consistency. I only can imagine how many times realtors would have been calling your #1 client in that 14, 15-year period, and they've chosen you this time later. So it certainly speaks volumes about what service that you have got to offer. So 15 years, 14 years, even if it's only 5 years, you can imagine how many phone calls other realtors would have given her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so well done. That's awesome. Okay, bank rings you up and tells you we're closing your doors if you don't get 10 new doors in the next 7 days. What do you do?
So I would definitely stalk the owners on the way we talk, but I'd also go through all of our current leads and our old leads that we've had and start calling them up. Just hit the phones really hard and talking and finding out if they have a property still. They still need a management company. Are they thinking about switching from the current company to us? So starting that process, and then I contact all of my realtor clients and find out if they have any clients that if they need any help. Another great thing that I would do is for the self-managing landlords, we call them up and see if we can offer them a write-up on their property and co-brand it with them to try to get some more exposure, and then maybe offer them a free RICO like virtual tour. We can just spend 20 minutes in their property, take a few shots and give it to them. So just to encourage and to show them, hey, we can do this a little bit better for you, likely a little bit faster, and start bringing those new clients on to show them how innovative we are. Because I really believe that performance beats talk every single time.
Yeah, you're putting your money where your mouth is. So have you got, so we're talking about multi-listing for a rental, right? You're talking about co-listing a property to lease it, to find a tenant.
No, so I think you kind of confused them. So by co-listing, like I don't know if you guys do this in Australia, but when you sell a home here in the US, often you'll get a flyer that like the mortgage broker has listed down, like here's what your mortgage rate would be, and it'll have the realtor's face on it, and then it'll have the mortgage broker's face on it, right? So you're not co-listing it, but you've created a co-branded flyer.
Co-brand, yeah, it's a co-brand, but not multi-list, yeah.
Yeah,
so you can do that. You could do that for
this is when 3 realtors have the same property and they're all trying to sell it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we call multi-list.
So you're talking about working with your strategic alliances. So like everyone in a B&I group, working together.
Well,
sale.
specifically working with the owner. Specifically working with the owner.
Yeah, so he's saying take that strategy that you would do with a realtor and then go do that with the for rent by owner.
Yeah, cool. So that's cool. Okay, and what else would you do? So okay, if I can talk about, you said you'd call your current clients and stuff. Are you just calling them saying, "Hey, I'm going to close the door if I don't," because
we're not going to say we're going to go out of business. You show your hand and we tell them, "Hey, look, we just wanted to touch base with you. How's your property doing? Do you know anybody else that might need a service? Are you thinking about buying another property? These are the services we can offer you to help you identify, evaluate, and help you get that sales transaction completed and manage the property afterwards."
Yep. Okay.
So one thing that I've found is figuring out what your keywords are that sort of perk the ears of your clients in your market. So in our market, it's going to be different maybe than other people's, but we learned that kind of early on that in our market, the words like relocation is big. Like people all want the executive client and they all want your relocating clients. So by asking enough of these for rent by owners, what they're looking for and trying to uncover what their pain point is, you're able to kind of tailor your pitch. Like, okay, what value can I bring? How can I bring this to them? So we kind of figured that early on. We're like, they want our executive clients. They want our relocation clients. So we then tailored how we were attracting tenants to try to sort of bring that. So we're able to tailor our pitch that way. So I think if the bank calls us up and you got 10 days, so you're coming up with your irresistible offer for those for rent by owners. How can I get them to sign up without just, saying half price deal or something? It would be whatever those keywords are in your market, come up with an offer around that, some kind of guarantee or some kind of offer that can convince them to sign where they otherwise might not sign.
Yeah, that's good. So you're identifying what the particular pain point would be.
Yeah.
At that certain time. So when you're calling your current owners, are you allowed to offer any form of an incentive for them to refer business to you?
You are not allowed to pay someone a referral fee. You can give a gift to your clients. You can give a thank you gift. It's not supposed to be in direct correlation for business, but you can give them like a free month of management.
Yep. Okay. And the reason why I say that, obviously, it's interesting to see because a lot of people think, just ring up and offer a referral, but you're not allowed to. And I knew you guys weren't allowed to. I mean, in New Mexico, all you can do is donate to a charity or something, So it's different in each state. So it's interesting to see that point from other, to other areas. So what are your best rent roll growth strategies that would potentially bring in about 80% of your business? We've spoken about calling the private owners, the expired listings, etc. So right now, where is 80% of your business coming in from?
It's not the most exciting answer, but where most of our business comes from is online searches and people finding us that way. Okay. And people talk about SEO and they talk about your ranking. It's something we've been working on for a long time. But I think what's more important than that, because you can hire a company to go do your SEO for you, right? But it's about how you're presenting yourself and how you're presenting your product. And I think we do that very well. So when people are searching, and you have to rank, that's number one to get people to click on you. But then once they get there, they have to believe you and want to work with you. And that's something that I think we've also done pretty well since the beginning is our listings we always use professional photography. We're getting more into using VR and virtual tours. Our descriptions are always very thorough and very detail oriented in how we're presenting the properties. And because we're going for a higher end clientele, it's like little things. Like we're always pitching, presenting our properties most expensive to least expensive when you're looking through our search. So it's kind of little stuff like that just is on brand with what you're trying to put out there, that people, once they get to your website, that they believe what you're selling.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. So you're telling me people want to use you because your marketing looks good. So and you're offering. So you're telling me you're not taking photos on your phone. So
iPhones take pretty good photos these days. Once in a while, if you shot, we might once in a while use an iPhone photo.
5.5 years ago when I first started consulting, I was telling everyone to dump their phones. Now I can say it's actually okay. Right. A 14, 15 gigabyte photo, for crying out loud. It's just nuts.
Right.
Megapixels, sorry. Okay, so you've got professional photography. You've got you've spoken about 360 tours. So they're seeing that you've got a Matterport camera. Is that what you're using for your vacant properties?
Yeah, well, we have the Matterport. We don't use that as often. We're just starting to experiment with the Ricoh camera, which is great. I think one of the great differentiating things about our website for that really hits home with owners is the lead capturing systems that we have built into the back end of the platform, and how easy we can make it for tenants to set appointments, and also the communication from that platform to the owner. The owner can we use Tenant Turner, so Tenant Turner, when we set an appointment, the owner gets notification. If the tenant gives feedback, the owner gets that feedback all in real time. So owners really like that. They like to know what's going on. They like to hear it. It gives them transparency inside the transaction that they might not otherwise have by turning it over to another person.
Sure. So if I can just explain for Australia and New Zealand, Tenant Turner is it's the closest thing to inspect real estate. So to get that understanding. So, okay.
Deniz, can I just interject here? Sorry. Guys, what's your website so people can actually have a look at your rental property marketing? So it's, what is your website?
For sure. It's foundationhomes.com. Homes is plural.
Foundationhomes.com. That's pretty easy. Thank you.
Easy.
So trust is a massive a tool to win the business, because as you know, realtors, real estate agents, we're down the barrel. We're at the bottom of the list of being trusted. And you're talking about you've got some quite good SEO, but I want to delve in a little bit more on how you're getting their trust. What's on your website as well, because yes, marketing wins you listings, and I've got like a 2-hour session on that. And I think I touched on that in Lake Tahoe with you all, and you guys came to me and said you're doing a lot of it, which is great. But what else is capturing them to want to use you?
Well, I think it's showing. So sort of what Christopher touched on, the responsiveness. So like we've got a chat bot on our website, right?
Okay.
So right there, people can get us, and that comes right to me. Eventually it'll be AI, but I'm still learning what the requests are that come in so I can better train the chat bot. But I've been doing that for about a year, where I just manually do it right now. But there's all kinds of instant ways for people to get in touch with us. And when an owner does get in touch with us, they also hear from us instantly. It rings all our leasing agents, rings anyone who can answer the phone simultaneously at our company, so that someone is picking up that phone when that owner calls. And we literally get business just because of that, because it's important.
We picked up a really great client last year. He's one of our favorites, even just as a person. But he told me when I met with him, he said, I called 3 companies. You're at the same time, all right in a row. Your company responded to me. I knew it was an automatic response. And then you called me at 9 a.m. the next morning. You met with me the following day. He had 2 rental properties in a premium area in Marin County. And then he used us to purchase a 3rd one. And he's planning on getting a 4th. This guy has been just a gold mine, so to speak, for business, but it was also because of all the things we had in place to secure that client. And we do that for everybody. And our close rate has gone up as a result.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, speed is it's a huge factor in getting business.
Huge advantage as well, Deniz, when people take 2 or 3. I mean, we've called up several hundred agencies, for example, in Texas, doing a secret fee shopper, getting their fees over the phone, so I can then go and do a seminar on typically the type of fees that are being charged out there. And we actually had 50% of people not even picking up the phone.
It's really surprising how many people say, hey, look, I called a couple people and you're the only one that called me back.
There's a growth strategy right there. Get back straight away.
But so it's not just, so we don't just call them back. We call them, we email them, we text them. So it's 3-way. Today you have to use text. And I think that is one thing. It's a silly, small detail, but I think that does set us apart, because people want to hear by text. I never listen to my message anymore.
Yeah, well done. Well done on that. And answering an email is a big advantage as well. So many people that will send an email and they don't reply you for a week or 2, and it drives me nuts. Now, if I can talk about your texts,
sure.
You know what I'm going to ask, aren't you?
I don't.
You don't. I mean, you have sat in on my training when it comes to text.
Oh, video text. I'm sorry. I was going for the words. I was thinking, what about the words?
It's okay. I saw the head turn and the whisper in the ear. Okay.
So it's It's through an automated system, so I can't do that at this time for our instant ones that are coming through, and there's some limited capabilities there. But there's a product called Bonbon that we're not using yet, but I want it's on our radar for this year to be able to really kick that up even a higher level. I'm super excited about that because of your training.
Yeah, good. No, that's cool. Bonbon's been around for a while, which is it's cool. I first heard about it in 2013, but there is another one. It's eluded me. Greg Watson uses it, Darren, and they reckon it's another step above Bonbon.
Okay. Well, I'm actually in Greg's office in New Zealand on Monday. I'm going to have a look at it myself. So
I'm going to message him when Darren starts asking, so hopefully I can get that that answer to us. But Bonbon is really good, but especially for those follow-up appointments, there's nothing worse than if you've left a presentation, you may not have got the listing, or you've gotten off the phone from a client, and you give them a phone call later and they say, oh, look, sorry, I went with the other agent because they told me about this. And then you go, oh, damn, I knew I should have said it. Pull over on the side of the road, grab your phone, do a quick, hey, thanks for your time. You asked me this question. I don't think I answered it properly, A, B, and C, and send it to them face to face. That is so valuable. And even as a follow-up, just got back to the office. Thanks very much. Really appreciate spending that time with you. Hopefully the dog next door stops barking. Hopefully the baby sleeps well tonight. Whatever it is, get personal with them. Get them to like you. I mean, you've said to me twice, Christopher, that they've become friends of yours, some of your clients. Become friends at the appointment. Get personal with them, and then, and send them that text. It's funny, we call it a video text. Is it an MMS or is it a whatever? But send it to them, and it'll take your conversions to another level.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Because of your training, we've been talking about implementing more of that, of the guys doing their little text video after.
Yeah, I think we need to put some accountability training on you guys, but I'll okay. But I'll let that question. I've been hogging the whole thing. I'm going to Watson while you're asking, okay?
So very quickly, guys, you may be interested. This is a book that we are reading at the moment as a team, and it's Never Lose a Customer Again by Joey Coleman, and amazing strategy about giving everybody the wow factor from the very, very first minute that they become a client. And a lot of the things you've been talking about really resonate through the things that we're learning in that book. And, well done. But let's just talk about now your fees. Let's talk about the $6,000 on average income per property per year that you're doing. And obviously we got a bit of an issue about talking about numbers, so we can't mention numbers in the show. But can you perhaps tell us, you've got a management fee, you'd have a leasing fee. What are some other fees that you have?
Sure. So our fees are mostly so high because our rents are so high, right? So we've got our leasing fee. We have our renewal fee. That's one point of differentiation. Not everyone in the US, there's a pretty widespread what people charge. So ours is obviously on the higher end of that. A couple of just like annual fees, like annual admin accounting fee. We do not charge for just regular maintenance, but we do charge for almost everything else that's not just your standard maintenance. So because the cost of living is so high here, obviously that does add up, but it also takes a lot of our staff hours to service that. Even just like, a simple thing is a lot of, everyone in the industry knows, right? It's not just a click, it's done. It's the call, the scheduling, the back and forth.
Yeah.
It'll just take a lot of hours to get that stuff done.
Like big major remediations, things like that is our example of when we charge. We feel that that's above normal property management, day-to-day duties, and we have to account for our team's time around that.
Yeah, and we also charge on the contract value on the initial lease up. So a lot of people do flat leasing fees, but here, because the rental rates are higher, your job is kind of more similar to a traditional real estate agent. You're charging on the contract value. So if we're doing a 2-year lease, then the fees are on that full 2-year lease. It's not just
yeah, fair enough. Let's just talk about your management fee now. Is your management fee percentage going to be the same as an agency down the road that's dealing with your $1,500, $1,800, $1,100? Is it the same percentage?
It is.
Okay, cool. I was hoping you'd say that because
they're minor.
Yeah, that's cool. I was hoping you're going to say that because a lot of people, when they've got those higher rents, they feel in their mind it's harder to get that same percentage. And you get an owner say, well, why are you charging me this percentage when it's the same percentage as the other agent down the road that's got a lot lesser rent, but why are you charging me so much? You know, in the end, the dollar rate is going to be so much more on that same percentage. How can you justify that? So what do you say there where you're actually charging a lot more, though your percentage may be the same?
Well, that's interesting because I just answered this question for a client last week when we were just closing him. He had a lot of contract questions, which was great, but he had the same question. And I said, listen, you know, at the end of the day, it's a more challenging transaction for a higher end property. The expectations are just higher. We have to put in that much more work and effort, and you are also demanding excellence from us, and so is the tenant. So if we don't, we charge these fees, but we earn them all day long. And yes, that person down the road might be renting a lower end property for the same price, and yes, that overall fee is going to be less, but that's an easier transaction to actually facilitate than what you're asking us to do here.
So once you give that response, is it any big deal after that?
With the caliber of client that would own a home on the higher end side, I think there's an intrinsic feeling that they have, that they know that they're purchasing a product that they need to have. So these are people who are not buying, say, a Honda or a Toyota. They're buying a Porsche or a BMW or a Mercedes, sometimes because of the performance of the vehicle, but also because of the service that they actually get inside the dealership.
And you know, it's funny when we use that analogy, but about a year ago when we were trying to figure out what car to buy for me, we went into the Toyota dealership.
It's a great story.
Well, we've driven BMWs for years, so it'd been a long time since we'd actually been in a dealership. So we went in, and we get some junior sales rep, and he literally
did a good job. He did a good job.
But he literally sits us down to do the dog and pony show. He's got this little flip book, and he's making us sit there and flip through this flip book, and we're just like,
we're like, what does it cost? Like, get the shades. Like, we just want to know.
So then we go over to the Mercedes dealership, and it's the welcome. Would you like an espresso? Blah, blah, blah. They're not getting into the sale. They're not trying to sell you. They're not telling you the information you don't care about. They're looking at you. They're saying, what does this person need? What do they need to know? If you're buying a Mercedes, you're busy. You don't want to hear the details. You want to know what you want to know. And so they're there to service you. And that's the difference. When you're dealing with a company like ours that's accustomed to operating in that space versus maybe a typical property management that's kind of handling all across the board, is that we just kind of know what like that space needs. And even if you don't do luxury, for anyone listening out here, you're not doing luxury, you're doing something else, the same advice can be applied towards whatever your specific expertise is, right? You just need to know what it is that your clients want and tailor to that.
Yeah, well done. Deniz, over to you, mate.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, you guys obviously you've got some really good systems in place. You know, good points of differences, good setups at the beginning, etc. You know, so well done. It's certainly something that Darren and I recognised when we first met you. Obviously, we got to spend some extra time in the vehicle. I can't remember, what were we in, a BMW or a Merc? I remember it was white.
It was a station wagon. It was a wagon.
No truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. Anyway, that's cool. So, which is really cool. So, now, do you have KPIs in place for rent roll growth strategies? You know, and what are some examples that you've got in place for, you know, some tasks that, you know, you spoke about earlier that you've got the new people coming on board with you. You've got them targeting the style listings, private owners. But what else have you got in place?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that we've realized over the years. As rainmakers, per se, people used to going out and getting business. The job of a real estate brokerage in today's market has kind of changed. Your job is to be the rainmaker for your agents. So for us to expect that our agents go out and do what we used to do is unrealistic. And it took us a bunch of years to sort of realize that. It's not fair for us to put that expectation on them to go be rainmakers.
It's a recent revelation. I think.
Well, it was 2 years or so.
2 years.
Yeah. But so our job now is we work as hard as we can as a brokerage on setting up broad strokes that are going to bring in business in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. So I'll answer the KPI in just a second. But one recent example is we set up an MVP program. So we're throwing like great events for our clients. We did like a Brazilian cooking class. We did just before Thanksgiving, we did a holiday cocktail class, and we set it up at a restaurant, and the bartender let us get behind the bar. So we got great videos. They're on our Facebook page of us wearing boas, making cocktails. So we're really getting to know our clients on a one-on-one basis. And it's all just to really show them that we appreciate them, and that we're trying to do something a little bit different. We're trying not to be just your run-of-the-mill property management company, but we're not quite a real estate brokerage who's out there, you know, just with a million agents just trying to sell properties. We're kind of like a different beast, so to speak. So when we get to our KPIs, we're measuring what our agents do, and we're measuring what we do as a company. So the biggest one we're tracking is our conversion rate right now. I know you guys have awesome conversion rates in Australia and New Zealand. In the US, the average is around 19 or 20%. So we've been hovering at 28 or 29% for the last year. So we're pretty proud of that. We're trying to break 30. That's our current goal. And then we're going to try to get to 50 like you guys are.
Okay, so in your defense, your conversion rates are calculated from when you get a lead. Okay,
all leads, even junk leads. Every single lead goes in there.
Yeah, that's right. So where you know, in the US, you have really great systems in capturing and tracking the leads. That's still something fairly new in Australia. So when it comes to conversion on percentage from the actual appointment, that's what really captures my attention as well. Because what's really cool, so you guys know that you've got to work on your online presence, you've got to work on your trust, which you're obviously doing really well to get it to 29%, and that's great. But what about your conversion from when you've got the appointment to what you're signing up? You know,
we haven't tracked that, but it's pretty high. I mean, we pretty much we close, I wouldn't say every single client, but more we close probably most of them. If I'm meeting with the client, I'm going through the contract, they're going to usually list with us unless they decide not to list their property at all.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And we all understand that sometimes you might have an appointment and they don't do anything for 3 months, 4 months, whatever the case. Right. But it eventually breaks up. So, you know, it's good that you're tracking those KPIs. It's really important because you know where your training needs to be. So, and in fairness, you know, let's be honest, some of those leads is just someone's filled out a form online that they've seen something, but they're not looking at doing anything for a couple of years. And I'm sure you've got some of them as well.
We do, but we have a nurturing and a drip system for them. So we do videos. They get all our newsletters. We have a drip system content. We have closed leads that have been 6 months old, or I can't think of any that have been a year old in there, but definitely we have a full system for whether it's a circle back or you know, if they're just going in our nurturing system, for sure.
There's probably 5 or 6 leads that I'm going to be closing by beginning of February that I've been talking to since November. But these are people we've identified a strategy for them. We knew what was going. We knew how to structure the lease up and the marketing and the ultimate path, the management of their property. We were planning for the spring. So yeah.
Great. Okay, so obviously, you know, if we're going to talk about what your goals are, what your growth goals are for, you know, the next 12 months, you said you want to get to 30% for your conversion rate from leads. What other growth goals have you got in place, or that you're planning on taking over? You guys will conquer.
Yeah, we're actually a little bit behind on setting our goals for this year because January has just been crazy busy, but we had to wait to true up some stuff with our books to really set. We really wanted to be super, super accurate when we set our goals. But we are opening a San Francisco office this year, so we're excited about that.
Next month.
Yeah, next month.
Wow.
I mean, we already manage properties in San Francisco. We've been turning away the business for so long, and we've been trying to figure out where to open our second office, and finally we're like, well, it's
San Francisco,
right in front of us. It's the business we've been turning away. So
you're going into the city part of San Francisco. So how far are you away from there at the moment?
We're
15 minutes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, miles wise, less than 10.
Yeah.
But San Francisco is a 7 by 7 square. So, and there's a lot of different neighborhoods in there.
It's just our hesitation to go into that market is it is super, super saturated. There are tons of property management companies, and we've thought, why bother? We don't need to fight in there. But what we've realized, we just completed our study for our 2018 numbers, and it's the first year that we've tracked our stats for how our price per square footage and our days on market performs compared to the MLS. And our stats are awesome. And we're so excited. So our average property rents at 2.5% higher than the average MLS property. and it rented 24% faster than the average MLS property. So that's what we've known in our heart for years, but now we've got the data to prove it. And so once we heard that, we're like, oh, so okay, we are doing something kind of different. Well, screw it. Let's go to San Francisco and see what we can do different there too.
And it's just, you think about it, just by working with us, the owners are putting money in their pocket.
Yeah, and you'll be able to get the word out in the street to your owners as well that you got an office there. The word of mouth and all those sort of things will work for you too. So well done.
You calculate that monthly, because that's how you work it. How much extra income that's potentially generating for your owners over a 12-month period just for listing with you, and there's a good campaign there.
Yeah, I've got a flyer that calculates for them as an example of a $6,000 listing, what that 2.5% adds up to, and then what the 24% faster. So we've already broken that down for them for sure.
Yeah, per day, because that just list with us and save. Simple marketing.
All right, guys, let's round this interview up. One last quick question. You are both on stage at the Inspired Growth Conference. You are speakers, and you're speaking to business owners, you're speaking to BDMs, you're speaking to people that grow the business. You've got 1 minute to speak to them. What's the most important thing you would have to say?
I would say you develop and use a system consistently for lead tracking, identify your ideal client profile, and develop scripts to sell to them specifically. Know your product, know your outcome, and have confidence in your value. Period. The end.
Well done.
And I would probably add, if you haven't already, embrace coaching, because that's one thing in our career that I feel like we didn't really get into until later. So it's really only been the last 3 years that we've really been embraced and fully into the value of whatever type of coaching it is. We do Tony Robbins. We love that. Christopher's involved in some other Wake Up Warrior. And then obviously coaching from you guys, coaching from a lot of different sources. And what's the other one? Alex Sharfin, we just signed up for. So we are coached up for sure.
You guys are right up there, I promise you. You certainly represent the very best that we've come across in the United States. It's so good to be connected. Now, if anyone's got any questions, what's the best way to get hold of you?
You can go to our website for sure. You can hit us up. There are about 1 million ways to get on touch right there.
Foundationhomes.com.
www.foundationhomes.com. Our contact information is listed right there. We're happy to answer emails, especially from halfway around the globe. Love to talk to you guys.
And if anyone wants to talk about the Warriors basketball team, Christopher is on Twitter often with his comments.
We do look forward to.
He used to play for us, so.
We want to see you guys come along to an event in Australia too. So thanks so much. I think it's been a great interview. We're just so pleased as Punch to have two wonderful people like you as part of our inner circle. I think, Deniz, very quickly, for people out there, get on Facebook, go to IGT Inner Circle Facebook group, answer the 3 questions and you're in. So IGT Inner Circle Facebook group. We look forward to seeing you there. Deniz, I think we're done.
Yeah, certainly are. Thank you for taking the time out. Just so everyone knows, this is take 2.
Well, we had some technical problems first time around, but thank you guys. Thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you guys. It's been great.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.